With the markets just open for Zabo, the idea is investing in government bonds and securities. So dial *292# and definitely start your investment journey with Zabo. A platform by Altex East Africa says do something new. So it is quite important for you to think about how best you can do that. And investing has been made simpler with this particular generation where you can invest in intangible assets. So make sure that you do so as the markets open at 8:15 a.m. and do close at 3:15 p.m. East African Standard Time. So the markets are only closed during weekends and public holidays, but the other days you are free to invest. And investing is very simple. After registering with your NIN in the next 24 hours, you'll be ready to invest and become an investor with Zabo. Zabo, my money, my future. Powered by Altex East Africa, which says do something new. And our In Focus discussion this morning is basically going to rotate around understanding tax types. And which tax type are we focusing on today? We're looking at the taxation of employment income. And of course, you as an employer and an employee, these are things that you clearly need to follow up on in regards to the discussion. So, and of course, joining me this morning, I do have Mr. Mulangira, Officer Domestic Taxes at the Uganda Revenue Authority, and he's back again to take us through another set of discussions from the tax mobilization strategies of Uganda Revenue Authority. Good morning, sir, and many thanks for joining us again.
Good morning, Sonko, and dear viewers. Once again, good morning. I'm happy to be at March 24 again this morning.
Okay, pleasure.
I send regards
Okay.
at URA. Of course, we are happy that Ugandans are doing their obligations to see that our motherland can survive.
Oh, okay.
Yes.
And surely, as we look at the taxation of employment income, briefly from the taxman's point of view, if you can identify, you can differentiate for us employee, unemployee, and an employer before we dive into our discussion.
So, those are two words
exactly
that have different legal and tax meaning.
Yes.
We have an employer and an employee.
Okay.
An employee is someone who is engaged in employment.
Okay.
Case in point, Sonko here, or Twa here, who is engaged with the Uganda Revenue Authority. I come in the morning and I have clear-cut, outlined job descriptions that I have to do on behalf of the authority. So I am an employee. Whoever is down there, you're working in the Ministry of Public Service, you're a doctor, where you have an employer, then that qualifies you to be an employee because you are engaged in employment. And then an employer is a person or an individual. You know, with matters of taxation, we have individuals and non-individuals as taxable entities or taxable persons. If you have anybody, if you are an individual or a corporate and you employ someone, you employ and remunerate them with the terms and conditions agreed therein in the contract of service, then you are referred to as an employer. Could be a company, okay? Iceland Investments Limited, and it has its employees. It has a driver, it has a receptionist, it has a strategic manager, and it remunerates these listed individuals. Then we defer, or we take them to be employers. But also you can be an individual as Sonko who has his farm, and you have a shamba boy, you have a veterinary doctor, you have girls and boys who say collect eggs from your poultry farm, and you remunerate them, then you're termed or referred to as an employer.
Okay.
Yes.
And if you're to look at how the taxpayers, what is meant by employment now to the taxpayer?
A position, employment is a position of an individual in the employment of another.
Okay.
Okay? If you are working with a smart TV okay, then we defer to you as, we refer to that relationship as employment. However, you realize that there are people who are directors in the companies.
Okay.
You know, companies are non-individuals and they are legal entities. They can sue or be sued. And they are totally different, or you can differentiate a company from its directors.
Okay.
So you realize that directorship is employment. If you are a director in a company, you can't say you're not the owner, because it's a legal entity separate from its directors.
Okay.
So if you are a director in a specific company, we refer to that as employment, and that is directorship employment.
Okay.
And then a position entitling you to have a fixed and a certain amounts of remuneration is referred to as employment. This can be contractual or permanent.
Okay.
Yes.
All right.
It can be contractual or permanent.
And from the perspective of differentiation, if you can look at this, the difference between an employee and an independent contractor. When you look at this, what are the tenets of employment in that kind of
Okay,
difference?
you realize that employment and we have what we call someone who is an employee who has a contract, okay, of employment, which is a contract for service, a contract of service. And then we have what we call a contract for service. Those are the two distinct words.
A contract of service and a
contract of service and a contract for service.
Okay.
An employee has a contract of service.
To serve.
I have a contract to serve URA. It's the reason I'm here.
Okay.
I wake up very early in the morning. URA determines the hours of work. URA determines how I have to work. URA provides the tools. It provides the manner and method in which I'm supposed to execute my duties.
Yes.
It has a specific time that I have to come at 8 and then leave at 9.
Okay.
I can't be in position to say today I'm not going to be in office, so my brother go and work for me.
Okay.
I can't hire anybody
to work
on
your behalf.
On my behalf.
That is the contract.
It's a contract of service. But a contract for service is like you can hire a company, you can hire me, but you don't determine how I work. As long as I give you the deliverables agreed there in the terms and conditions. Take for instance, Smart 24 TV.
Sure.
May have contracted a company to provide, say, air conditioning services, repair, installation, and all that. For you, you only want to see that where we are, the air conditions are working, okay? So you cannot determine how the other company will come. You can't say this one should be your employer. You must come and work at this time. You must not hire anybody. Yet, the other side, you have to. You can't determine the sick leave. You can't determine how the employees of the entity which you signed a contract for service. You can't determine who goes on leave at what time. You can't be the one to approve their sick leave because you don't control them.
Sure.
That is a contract for service as opposed to a contract of service.
Okay.
Yes.
Well, in absence of a contract of service, what really happens here? I'm looking at the situation if, in fact, if there is an absence of a contract of service. Does it mean, like you said, I'm not being controlled anymore?
Yeah.
Am I controlling my employer then?
No, there are specific things that will determine whether you're controlling this person or not.
Okay.
And so you realize that if in the absence of such things, you can be able to know that this person is either an employee or an employer. For example,
Okay.
you provide the tools, computers, okay? You determine the working time, you provide the working conditions,
Okay.
okay? You know that you even evaluate. You have a performance agreement. You have deliverables you want from this specific person.
Yeah.
Even when there is no contract, okay, of service, the law has implied that if you are one, you remunerate this person on a specific time, on an agreed amount, you control how they work,
Okay.
you provide the tools, you have their leave schedule, you have when they have sick leave and all that. Then even when there is no contract for service, contract of service, it is implied.
Okay.
There is no way you can dissociate. There is no way you can say go to court and the employee and you disown that these are not your employees, because there are things that court has spelled out that as long as those specific things are happening at the workplace, it is implied that this is a contract of service.
Okay.
Yes.
And in the long run, I would as well want to understand, if you're to look at the kind of treatment the employee gets, the employment income, how is it treated? For example, for the employee, and then for instances of income from employment, how is it treated mainly?
You realize that income from employment will be treated under the Income Tax Act, Section 19, which specifically talks about income or employment income. Whereas, if it is a contract for service, it means I've given you business.
Okay.
And therefore, the tax treatment of the two differ. Where you are talking about a contract of service, it is treated all and explained under Section 19 of the Income Tax Act, which is employment income. Whereas a contract for service is treated differently, using or under Section 18, and that therefore takes a fold of business income. Okay,
let's look at the composition of the employment income here. Because at least for the viewer out there would want to know, or an employer who is having their business now would wish to know what comprises of the employment income from the taxman point of view.
There are several, and we are going to outline them for the listeners, such that they can distinctively understand
what the employment income is.
What constitutes
the employment income.
Employment income.
Okay.
For example, employment income comprises of several of the following.
Okay.
One, if you have any amounts, amounts of a private person expenditure discharged or reimbursed by the employer. If I went to the field and I used some money in the execution of URA duty, and I come back to office and this money is reimbursed, that is not employment. However, if I went to the field and I used money that is reimbursed by the employer, but for a personal gain, that constitutes employment. You've gained, your employer has paid you. Any amount in compensation of a terminal benefit or a termination of a contract is employment. If I left URA today and I am paid terminal benefits,
your compensation fee.
Yes,
after
for a period of yes, it can be termination for the whole employment contract.
Okay.
And there is money that is paid to me. Maybe I was supposed to serve for 10 years,
and then you did,
and the contract is terminated
before the 10 years.
Yes, and I am paid amounts of money with reference or in lieu of that termination.
Okay.
That constitutes employment income and is taxable under Section 19.
Okay, how about in an event where your contract, you've completely, okay, you've outworked your contract and it's now done, 2 years of the contract and you've worked for 2 years and you're leaving. So the compensation they give you, okay, maybe an appreciation kind of money, is it also termed as?
It is employment income.
Okay. Because
it is amounts paid at the expiration of a contract by the employer. Okay? It can, and in most cases it is spelled therein in the terms and conditions for the contract of service. And then you realize that any insurance premiums paid by an exempt organization or an exempt employer for life insurance of an employee, that expenditure is employment income. You can be there and, for example, you're working in, say, Civil Aviation Authority, Entebbe International Airport, and you're lucky that the terms and the conditions that are spelled in your contract refer that if you're going on leave for, say, a period of 30 days, you're given a token called leave allowance. That constitutes employment income. And therefore, in terms of reference for how we tax it, can be seen under Section 19. That spells out employment income. You realize that if you have salaries, you have wages, you get commissions, you're paid overtime because the agreed and the standard hours in the in labor law, in the Employment Act, is 8 to 5. So if I happen to work for URA past 5 p.m., say up to 9, these other hours constitute hours worked overtime. Okay? And so if URA pays me overtime, that constitutes employment income. And therefore it will be aggregated and taxed in accordance under Section 19.
Okay.
Then if you get gratuity, this is the period in time where most companies appreciate their employers by giving them a Christmas bonus. Okay? So if you're getting a Christmas bonus this time round, and yes, it's employment income. And therefore you can't say, this is my bonus, hey, you are stay away from me. Understand, Soko?
Yeah.
You cannot, because it is employment income, and the rates and percentages applied therein in Section 19 that spells out how employment income is taxed will apply. Okay. And therefore the amounts will be charged and paid by the employer because he's a withholding tax agent on behalf of URA for payee purposes. Okay. And then if you have anything that the employer is going to give you, okay, that is private in nature, while you are executing your duties, it constitutes employment income. So each of the above, as discussed,
is a composition
of
the employment income.
Employment income.
Okay. And Mr. Twaha, when we do return after the break, we shall be looking at the components that are tax exempted, if we have any. And for the viewers out there, stick around to Smart 24 TV as we discuss more of employment income and then taxation from that particular angle of employment income. I still have Mr. Twaha Kayondo Mulangira from the Domestic Taxes Office at the Uganda Revenue Authority. Stick around.